Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. How are y'all doing tonight? It is Tuesday, the eve of an interview with Benjamin Dixon. Still excited. Anti-Corporatist, good to see you. Pinkerbell, hello. Looney Tunes 9000, good to see you. Elaine, hello. Gang, got a lot to go over. My word. Yes, you did. Elaine and I are discussing literally the thunderstorm we are both experiencing. It's been going on all day. The weather wizards in the United States did create this one. So this one's our bad. Sorry. We failed to appease them with a sacrifice of Al Roker's blood. I'm not sure where I was going with that. What's with the eye patch, Jake? Have you turned into a pirate? Look, I've always been a pirate. And I've also always been irresponsible. And I keep fiddling with my eye and reinfecting it like a child does. And a member of the Wicked community pointed out recently that this is an excuse to wear an eye patch. I could actually solve a problem I'm having right now and look amazing. So that's what I've done. Tinkerbell, oh gosh, stay safe. Both of y'all. Indeed we shall. My dog does not believe me. And I went and I picked up my parents' dog for the afternoon as well to try to make him feel better, and I don't think I helped very much. Folks, oh no, anti-corporatist driving into the sunset. Back in the day, I used to leave for work when the sun was rising and return from work when the sun was setting. And I lived in Dearborn and I lived in Dexter and worked in Detroit, which means I sympathize. That sucks. That it takes your energy down. I hope you have a good pair of sunglasses. Also because they look fantastic. Put the phone down. Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay. Feldo. Yesterday. Hello, Mrs. Jen's cats. Good to see you, my friend. Feldo, yesterday, brought up something fascinating. If you want to have some insight into what the Trump campaign is up to and who it consists of, have a look at the celebrities that they had endorsed them. Have a look at the staff who they fired or had quit and then rehired. There are people currently working for Trump who not 4 years ago said this guy is responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt. That's a statement of fact, by the way. Here's David Feldman explaining it.
So let me get back to Brad Parscale because it's a very sad mafia tale. In Monday's piece for the Times, Glover, you should read this. Republican donors, do you know where your money goes? In this piece in the New York Times, Glover tells a story identical to Chris Christie's that he told in his autobiography. After the 2016 election, Trump learned that Brad Parscale, who was given $100 million to produce digital commercials and buy advertising on Facebook, Google, and Twitter, after the election, after Trump became president, Trump found out that Parscale purchased a $2.5 million home in Florida and was parking equally expensive cars in his garage. When Trump heard how rich Parscale got off the 2016 campaign, Trump screamed at the top of his lungs, "That's my money. That's my money."
So the great irony here, and we're going to get into more detail in a moment in exactly how bad this Brad Parscale news is for Trump. The irony is what Trump is engaged in currently with the Republican Party is a fraud operation. He's attempting to just use a political party as a means to get himself paid. So, for example, he will host events for Republicans out of Mar-a-Lago and charge them tens of thousands of dollars to do so. He'll have people give blindly, I know the irony, to PACs that don't have to report where their money goes. And then mysteriously the next week, a news story will come out where a debt that was creeping up on Trump because this guy doesn't pay a check ever is suddenly relieved. It's suddenly gone. Ooh, where could that money have come from? Incidentally, we have no idea. We have no idea where any of the money being donated goes to, so on and so forth. So he was furious when he found out, wait a minute, we gave $100 million to Parscale, and now he's got a $2 million home and about $1 million worth of cars. Ooh, that makes me angry because I know exactly what that is. That's the thing I do. It gets worse. You guys, if you don't remember who Brad Parscale is, Feldo's going to remind us.
Glover writes in the New York Times, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, you should read the article, but she writes that Trump ordered Jared Kushner, this is early 2017, he ordered Jared Kushner to literally take over Parscale's digital consulting business and make sure moving forward that the Trump family would get its cut of whatever Dan Parscale's business earned. So we gave you $100 million to produce digital advertising. You kept too much of that. It should have been kicked back to members of the Trump family.
So now,
in other words,
I'm sending in my son-in-law, and he's going to take over your business.
Dan Parscale
Brad.
was still allowed to work on Trump's reelection campaign, right? Trump was president in 2017. Now he's running for reelection. So Dan Parscale was told you can still work on the reelection campaign, but you have to kick money back to the Trump family.
Like
This is what a mafia move is. Jared Kushner says, you're making way too much money.
You can run the
We're
casino,
taking over
but we got to wet our beak.
for your business. You need to kick money up to us. After Trump became president, Parscale was put in charge of a super PAC. And Parscale made sure that super PAC paid Lara Trump, Donald's idiot daughter-in-law, Eric's wife, and that super PAC paid Kimberly Gargoyle, Donald Jr.'s fiance. They both were paid $15,000 a month as consultants. Now, I don't know if I remember correctly. I don't know the exact number, but I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, Kimberly Gargoyle spoke on the Ellipse on January 6th. I think she was one of the opening acts. Rudy spoke, John Eastman spoke to warm up the crowd. I think
she also.
I have to double check. I'm going to 20 Ellipse on January. It was finally Keith Hyde trashed, from what I hear, trashed Phil Donahue and said he shows on MSN.
Rest in peace, Phil Donahue.
NBC, because he opposed the invasion of Iraq. Get it, Bill, here. Get it from the printed page. He's on the right side of history, usually. Remember, Brad Parscale eventually became Trump's campaign manager for re-election in 2020. He rose despite the humiliation after 2016. They made him the campaign manager because he played ball. He was paying Kimberly Gargoyle and Lara Trump a salary, and he became campaign manager in up until July of 2020, I think. And then Trump humiliated him, clipped his wings, demoted him. That's what Trump does. Fires people. If he suspects you're making too much money, if he suspects you're getting better press than I am, he clips your wings. So in July of 2020, Brad Parscale was fired as Trump's campaign manager, humiliated. By early September of 2020, Dan Parscale was no longer working at all for Trump, right? It was a demotion, and then he walked away from the Trump campaign, and he mysteriously walked away from that digital consulting company he started. The one that Jared Kushner and the Trump family took over back in 2017 after Trump discovered how rich Parscale became getting Trump elected president. By the end of September of 2020.
We're going to go into this portion of it in a moment. What you're seeing on screen right there. I just want to be absolutely clear. It's not enough that Trump loses the election. It's not enough that we get him for some of these crimes. We need a comprehensive investigation into this guy's criminal enterprise as it relates to politics. He took over that business. He hired a business for his campaign and then took it over. Think of it like this. Imagine that Kamala Harris hired a company to film a commercial. And it's a company with cameras and microphones, and they hire actors and the whole nine things. And they film a commercial. And afterwards, she looks at how much she paid in the contract to have that commercial filmed. And she says, nah, you know what? That's a profitable business. Too profitable. It's mine now. How would the right react to that? I'll tell you, it's how we ought to react to this. Department of Justice needs to get off its behind. This is one of the many reasons why I advocate for you all and your friends and family to join law enforcement in some way. If you have an opportunity, if you're wondering, what should I do with my life? If you got a niece or a nephew that's getting out of college and they're saying, I want to do something for the next few years that's good, law enforcement is something to consider. Just because it's done badly now by bad human beings does not mean it's not a noble profession. Can be, should be. We require it to be done well. But with the jerks we have right now who are refusing to investigate Republicans, what we require is pressure. So consider contacting the DOJ and saying, why is it that Brad Parscale's business got taken over by Donald Trump family members? This is a criminal organization. It must be treated as such. It does not matter that they've chosen to politicize everything. You remember The Godfather, where I think it's the second Godfather, where they're the Corleone family associates are up in front of Congress and they're saying, "Oh, you're going after Italian Americans just for being successful." That's what it looks like when some villains are politicizing crimes. That's what Trump is doing. Doesn't mean they're not crimes. Just because he's successfully managed to get idiots to see him as a legitimate political figure. Doesn't matter. Still a crime. Must be treated as such. But the situation with Parscale and the situation with Trump's current gang of cohorts, gang of criminal associates, is further illustrated by the way in which Parscale last left the Trump orbit. Here's how he last left Trump.
Losing his business and sent off.
Side note, one of the major reasons for divorce in the United States is disagreement over financial issues. Or it's stress brought on by financial issues. Brad Parscale had that $1 million home, $2 million home apparently, and very expensive cars. And then, being a victim of the Trump crime family, he had it stolen. His means of paying for those things stolen by his own client. Here's the mental state he was in after that.
Fired from the Trump reelection campaign. Parscale was arrested and hospitalized in a psych ward after this is very sad, after his wife called Florida police complaining he was hitting her, she had bruises, and he was abusing alcohol. This is in the 911 call. And she said, my husband is holed up in that $2.5 million home. He's got firearms and he's threatening to kill himself.
My pleasure.
Everyone and everything Donald Trump touches. Police ended up seizing 10 weapons from Brad. What's his name? Did I call him Dan? It's Brad Parscale. Police seized 10 weapons from his home before locking him up and putting him in the psych ward.
Real quick, if you're supporting Trump, this is the end of that path. That picture Feldo has on the screen right now, that's the end for you. It never ends with you being wealthy. It doesn't even end with Trump being wealthy. That's Trump being the only one who profited at all from Trump's scams is just the thing that happens right before the end. Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump Tower, in the casinos, all of it. It's just destruction. That's all it is. And this is always how it ends up. It's destruction wherein he's usually the last person standing, but it's not to say that he ends standing. He also goes down too. Brad Parscale got arrested after having a breakdown, after having his business taken over by the Trump family and his means of paying for his lavish lifestyle. He had a breakdown, assaulted his wife, fought with the cops, got hauled off to an institution.
And his wife refused to press charges. Parscale later in the year turned on Trump. This was 2020, especially after January 6th. He said Trump was personally responsible for the death of Ashley Babbitt inside the Capitol that day. And Parscale said, I want nothing to do with Trump ever again. But as
admitted, Trump was responsible for the death of an American.
As of May of this year, Brad Parscale, Trump's disgraced, broken campaign manager, is back working for the Trump campaign. No longer flying high as the campaign manager. Trump clipped those wings, demoted and humiliated him. He had to go into a psych ward. But he's back working for Trump.
Imagine another candidate had someone who used to work for them, who said that the candidate was responsible for an American citizen's death. And then that candidate hired them to work on a campaign again. There's 330 million people in America. Think about how desperate, 70 of them voted for Trump in 2020. Think about how desperate the campaign has to be to hire back someone with that kind of baggage. Never mind all the actual legitimate implications of this. Like, does this guy actually want you to win? Never mind all that. Never mind. Never mind the obvious things that a normal person would care about. Is this guy mentally well? Are we actually, if he is, are we actually responsible for the death of that person? The answer is yes. Never mind all that stuff. Just think of the optics. Just think of the optics. This guy accused you of getting an American citizen killed, the country you're trying to represent. And you hire him back? Do you think he might have some good points? Oh, he was just in a bad place. Why was he in that bad place? What brought him to that? Oh, you had your son-in-law steal his business from him. Because you didn't look at the contract that you signed with the man. It would be a scandal if Kamala Harris, dang it, it would be a scandal if Kamala Harris simply hired somebody from a campaign that she lost. Just that element of this, which is also true with Brad Parscale. That would be a scandal because they'd be saying, oh, she's learned nothing. We'd be saying, oh, she'd learned nothing. If it came to light that one of the people working for her was a major influence on her last, so on and so forth. It shows what a double standard there is with the Republicans, with conservatives in general. No matter what country you're in, I say have a hard look at whoever is responsible for arresting people in your country and make sure that they are doing a good job of investigating and arresting the conservatives. Because I'll tell you, in my country, we don't. We choose not to arrest conservatives. We choose not to investigate conservatives because we have utterly ceded law enforcement to conservatives. What a disgrace. How do we expect any of these rules to matter when conservatives, also known as the people with no ethics, aren't subject to the enforcement of those rules? You don't really have to watch lefties all that close to make sure they're doing the right thing. They're lefties because they care about the right thing. But conservatives in the era we're talking about right now in 2024, you'd be crazy to think that they can be trusted to self-regulate. I don't know why you would just leave them to their own devices, but that's what we do. That's exactly what we do. There is no interest from the U.S. Department of Justice in investigating these criminals. And by the way, that's basically all Trump is. He's just a criminal. The Trump organization. It's not a political campaign so much as a criminal campaign. Stand by. Hmm. I want to pull up something. Boat shop? Scheme? What do they call it when they store? Oh, Sopranos boat store frickin' scheme. Let's try that. Bust out. That's what they call it. Bust out. All right. Television show called The Sopranos. In it, a friend of one of the gangsters has a boat, an outdoor store of some manner.
Hey, pal, with the rum lotion. Put 3 cases of that in my car.
He goes gambling with the gangsters and he loses a lot of money. And they say, all right, we're not going to break your legs. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to run an operation out of your store. And that's how you're going to make this money up to us. And then this is what it ensues.
Got it. That's not a mistake. No, I want another 14 gross of the model number 4784. Plastic picnic cooler. Just ship them. I'll worry about selling them.
Red. Fuck blue. Red sells.
Put it here. Put that on the store tab. He says take 3 gross of the blue coolers. He'll give us a price on the red.
Well, fuck that. He's never getting paid anyway.
They gotta be all red. Yeah, just do it, please. Thank you. Goodbye. We'll get chicken and peppers. I don't fucking work the.
So they're stealing. They're saying, yeah, give me 3 crates of that thing you just bought for the store. And this thing over here, too. I'm going to take that.
Move some picnic coolers.
Coolers are like scissors. Everybody wants one. Nobody has a fucking idea how much they cost. You put a Nigerian out on the street, have him sell these for a couple, $3 a piece. Who's not going to say, fuck it? Give me one.
David.
The store's going to buy these coolers for $10 per unit. And the gangsters are just going to take them and sell them in the street for $3 a unit.
How we doing that books of airline tickets?
Want to raise a red
$50.
flag with the travel agency? A sporting goods store charges airline tickets in bulk?
You say it's a promotional device, customer of the year, salesman of the month, that kind of thing. Don't worry about it. You put it on different lines of credit.
Yeah, but all of a sudden I'm ordering all this weird shit. I mean, picnic coolers, Ramlosa water. When's one of these vendors going to realize I'm never going to pay him and call the cops?
When your fucking credit runs out, Diamond Jim. Until then, get on the fucking horn and order. Unless you're ready to pay us the principal you owe us.
And then at the end of the episode, they burn down the store. They drain the guy's credit. It's a story, but it's an actual scam the mob does. They drain the guy's credit. This had been somebody who had worked hard and established a store and built up his credit. They drain it all, pilfer him for everything he's worth, and then they burn down the store for the insurance money. And there is no more store. And that is apparently called a bust out. I've been telling you guys for a year and a half now. I don't expect there to be a Republican Party remaining next year, frankly. I mean, I've been saying 2028, I think, is when there is no more Republican Party. But soon. I think we're watching the bust out. I think that is what Trump is doing now. All those donations he's collecting. It's like the brother of the rock musician there, draining his credit. It's like the T-1000 there, draining his credit. All the reputation they built up with that voter base, all those email subscribers that they have. Give us money, give us money.
Credit. Don't worry about it.
There's Steve Bannon. Give me money for the build the wall thing. Don't worry about it. Oh, did I just go to prison for that? All right, it's just Steve Bannon. It's a bust out. And Republicans were vulnerable to this because they invited evil into their home. Because every year, Republican politicians made a deal with the devil. Every year they said, as long as you keep telling us that we're better than this group of people because we're not gay, or at least we won't admit we are, Lady G. We're better than these people because we're not black. We're better than these people because when our grandparents came here, it was on a steamship as opposed to over a river. We're better than these people for all these arbitrary reasons. As long as you tell us that, we'll let you do whatever you want. We'll pretend like giving massive tax breaks to the rich is somehow good for the economy. We'll pretend like allowing bankers to gamble with our money because they make massive bets, and if they fail, we bail them out. We'll pretend like that's good for the economy. Just keep telling us that we're better than somebody else. Just keep giving us permission to make a sport out of cruelty. They made that deal with the devil every year. I really want to say every 2 years. For my whole life. I suspect with conservatives it's been going on since the beginning. But now we're at the end. At least for the Republicans, we are. Now the bust out's just about complete. And remember, the very end of this story, at least in Trump's life, has never been that Trump ends up with all the money. That's the chapter right before the last chapter. That's the penultimate moment. What happens is Trump is the only one with any money left, and then he loses it all. We're just about at that part. Laura Trump's running the RNC. Excuse me. Laura Trump's running the finances for the Republican Party right now. They're hemorrhaging. They're just giving wheelbarrows full of money to the Trump campaign. Parscale's back. They're hiring their old associates who were in on the scams with them before. They never paid Giuliani, who knows where the legal bills are going. He's not really spending all that much money on campaigning. Democrats are outspending Republicans, despite all the money Trump raised. Where's the money going? It's going into Trump's pockets. It's buying him a few more days. And they're about to burn down the store. Jake, the word you're looking for is she's looting the RNC. Yeah, that makes sense. Need a Canadian. Lots of BS. The country already has too many problems. No room for newcomers. Ooh, I do like that. Yeah, it does kind of sound like they're looting the place and burning it down. Yeah, they are. And paying his legal bills. Those that he absolutely has to. Yeah. Yeah. Notably, his criminal legal bills. Those he has to pay from what I can tell. He did not pay Giuliani. He did not pay Jenna Ellis. He just let them hang out to dry. Bear in mind, Hulk Hogan was who they had as a celebrity at the RNC.
You're supposed to say what, okay? You guys need a cocktail?
Hulk Hogan famously was caught on tape saying the N-word about somebody his daughter was dating, calling that person a racial slur. The N-word. The worst one. Parscale, who said Trump is responsible for Ashley Babbitt's death. By the way, Parscale was quite correct there. Parscale's back because that's all they can get in this country of 330 million people. It's all they can get. Brad Parscale. That's the only person who will be comfortable with their crimes. To speak at the RNC, who could they get? Hulk Hogan. Guy who said the N-word. Why would you take that risk? Why would you take that risk? Why would you expose yourself to that kind of political risk? Because he might, days later, at an event where he's trying to sell his new beer, say this.
Tail. Need some crazy ladies. Need some muscles. Need some money. You need one beer. You need two beer. You need three beers. You need four beers. 5 beers. I need a pina colada. A Trader Vicks with a werewolf of London. His hair was perfect. You want to get crazy? You want me to throw more beers out? You want me to body slam somebody? You want me to body slam Kamala Harris? I said, do you want me to body slam Kamala Harris? You want me to drop the leg on Kamala? Is Kamala a chameleon? Is she Indian? Okay, I like it. How? I'm gonna get heat for that one, brother. That was not me, that was the beers talking.
For those of you that don't know, how is a way to make fun of indigenous Americans. Because apparently the word how was a greeting for some tribe. I only know it in the context of scumbags using it to basically just point out that somebody is an Indian, in their words. Hogan said, "Do you want me to body slam Kamala Harris? Is she an Indian?" That's a campaign-ending scandal for any other politician. The only reason it's not for Trump is because we already know he's a racist. We already know he surrounds himself with racists. We already know what he's about. Folks, if any of you out there are supporters of Trump, we're not going to go on pretending like you don't know anymore. You know. And we know you know. And we all have to start acting like it. Also, Bob Carmody. Good to see you. I know you're being sarcastic, but I was a huge fan of Hulk Hogan, the character. I love Hulkster the character. I know you're being sarcastic, but I personally, as a guy that once upon a time watched the WWF, enjoyed the Hulkster. But Terry Bolleo's an asshole. They also had Kid Rock as a performer. I can only apologize. If I would have known back when he was in Michigan, I would have put a pillow over his face. Because the base is already racist. I mean, look, I think so. And I think so in the if only this, if only because excusing racism as a technique to get something done that you want done is racist. It's you can't say you're not a racist because I don't have any hate in my heart for indigenous folks or people from India. I don't personally. I just, I need a certain segment of the population who hates these people, who enjoys hurting these people. I need them fired up, so I'm okay with this behavior. That's racism. Oh, look, I don't agree with Hulk Hogan using the N-word, that thing we've known about for years and years and years. But I'm okay with him being at the RNC representing us because he gives a real fiery speech. He gets people psyched. That is racism. And if you're concerned that, oh, well, suddenly everything I do is called racist, if that's something that you think is fine, if that's something you think is somebody else's problem, I'd ask you, what would it sound like if you were doing a bunch of racist stuff? What would you expect people's reaction to be? Do you think maybe they'd be telling you, boy, that's racist? I'll give you this lifeline. We all do racist stuff without even knowing. A big chunk of life in America, because of conservatives, is finding out that a lot of things around you are hurtful to other people, and you should stop participating in them. Not everything, but a lot of things. Until last week, I called the main bedroom in a house the master bedroom. I assumed it had something to do with architecture. It was like an architecture term. But in context of this conversation, I bet you can see where this is going. That's not why it's called the master bedroom. It's not your fault, necessarily, in other words. Who you've been need not be something you're proud of, necessarily, for you to take pride in who you were today. but you do need to try to be a good person. You do need to have the strength to self-assess. Anti-corporatist, case in point. Hell, Trump already calls people Palestinian as an insult. Shaking my head. Go f yourself, Tinkerbell. Especially if you pronounce it Arab, says the anti-corporatist. Yes. And by the way, what really annoys me about so much of this is they take stuff that isn't necessarily racist and turn it into racism, which then makes it awful when I do it. I love pronouncing things with a strong Midwestern accent, which naturally flops out of my mouth a lot. I love calling Iraq Iraq just because it sounds most normal to my mouth. But unfortunately, a bunch of scumbags pronounced it that way when they were saying things like, I don't care about the lives of people in Iraq. And now it makes me feel weird to say it in my natural, ignorant accent. You're making life harder for yourselves and for me. Racist pricks. In computing, they're working to stop using master/slave for hard drives. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. Should call it a mother bedroom, and then it's got the little girl's room right there attached. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that's fine. Or little boys, or little NB. So if it's not the master bedroom, what do I call it, Jake? I don't know. I just found out literally last week that that's where that word comes from. And I'm bummed about it because I've said it so often. So often. It's true. No, I believe you. I believe you, man. RE, the programming. They're changing Master of Puppets to Master of Puppets. Oh, God. Didn't have to be like this. I just want to say for the record. Did not have to be this way. On the off chance that you don't know who Roger Stone is, he's Trump's blackmailer. Roger Stone gathers what is called compromat on people, just embarrassing stuff or illegal stuff that they don't want out there, and he blackmails them. He's got a tattoo of Richard Nixon across his back, and his son is in danger of becoming self-aware. His son's name is Alex Stone. You can look it up about Roger Stone. That's his job. He's Trump's blackmailer. But Alex Stone recently put out a thought on Twitter. It's very dangerous for Republicans to expose their thoughts because they so rarely visit them. They're untested generally. He put out a thought on Twitter. Here it is. Well, that's not very helpful. Here it is. I just had a terrifying thought, says Alex Stone. What would happen if President Trump pause? What would happen if President Trump wins the election, but on January 6th, Kamala Harris does what Trump wanted Mike Pence to do? Hmm. Are you suggesting, Trump supporter, that it would not be fair to run an election and then have the party in power simply decide to ignore the results of that election. Is that your suggestion? Son of Trump's blackmailer? Scumbag human from a scumbag family? Is that your suggestion? I agree. That probably would not be a good thing if that were to happen. I agree that we should not allow people to behave that way. Maybe think about something called universal reasoning. Things are not just good because you do them and bad because somebody else does them. When you come up with whether or not something is good or bad, imagine if everybody behaved that way. Would it be fair then? Just had a thought, did you? 4 years later, you just now had a thought, a terrifying thought. What would happen if Democrats behaved the way Trump behaved? Well, we wouldn't be in a democracy. That's what would happen. You silly little nothing. We got some great news here, folks. The Trump gang is doing the bust out
Everyone, welcome to
of the Republican Party. This is what it looks like when the party's burning down. We got our old pal Raw News and Politics here. We've been watching this channel basically since they started. They're talking about Michigan politics, the RNC. Oh boy.
this show. So this is a fun one. Last weekend, the Michigan Republican Party had a convention to nominate the Supreme Court members, other people, to run in this November's election. So they had an uninvited guest show up. She's back. Crazy Karamo is in the house. All right, she was, I should say, until she got escorted out. So I am referring to the former Michigan Republican Party chairperson named Christina Karamo. She was ousted by her.
Also worth mentioning, it's not like it was a surprise. Before she goes into the details of the story, she goes right into how she was ousted. I want to make it clear. It was known from the beginning who she was, that she was not someone who ought to be trusted with a lot of responsibility when she was nominated to lead the Michigan Republican Party. The only thing she had going for her, as far as Republicans were concerned, was that she was incredibly pro-Trump even after January 6th. That was it.
Her own party. If you guys have been watching this show for a while, you know she is a nutcase. She basically tanked the Michigan GOP. She burned through all of their cash reserves. She achieved nothing doing it, which is just awesome. I mean,
Bust out. One more thing, though. This is after huge losses by the Republicans. So what happened was a Trump loyalist got put in place of the Michigan Republican Party after massive losses by the Republicans. She burned through all their money, just like in record time. It took less than 6 months. Had them down to like $0. These people were firing staffers because they simply couldn't afford to pay them. We are witnessing that on a national scale. I've said for a long time, Michigan is a great microcosm. It's one of a few states which is a great microcosm example of what the whole country is like. And the reason Michigan is like that, it works so well like that, is because it was a purple state. And it's like about a year ahead of the rest of the country in terms of the events we're enduring, including January 6th. We had our own version of that about it. Yeah. So watch this. What's happening with her is basically what happened with her that last weekend is what is currently happening with Trump and the Republican Party.
mean, we couldn't have asked for more if it was like a Democratic plan. And it became really clear that the only reason she was handed the position was because of her total and complete fealty to Trump and the MAGA mission. Well, when they tried to get her removed, they tried to officially remove her as the party chair, she just refused to go. She went full Glenn Close, full crazy ex-girlfriend mode. She filed all kinds of legal challenges. She physically refused to leave. She lost the legal challenges. And then when she finally did leave, she took off with a bunch of their property, like tens of thousands of dollars worth of office supplies and equipment, computers even. She just took all the computers in the office. So this woman has some serious issues. I mean, even her own family says she is one nugget short of a 10-piece. Her ex-husband told journalists that she wants, and this is in there, I don't know if he told them, I should take that back. In their divorce papers, it said that she threatened to kill him and their daughters by crashing their car. So he said they were driving together one day. Apparently, they'd already been discussing divorce, and Karamo started fighting with him over the steering wheel. She tries to rip it out of his hands. She's fighting with him. And she said, quote, "Fuck it, I'll kill us all." So it was in their divorce papers. So this is who the Republican Party nominated to run a very crucial battleground state. Like I always say, when crazy knocks, do not open the door. Do not answer the door. You lock it, you get down, you stay quiet until they go away.
This isn't even the story. I just want to point out, this is not even the story. The stealing of computers, the bust out, it's not even the story we're talking about. That's just the background on who this person is. This is who Republicans are.
So anyway, there's still some Karamo fans in the party because when her
Why?
replacement, a man named Pete Hoekstra, he took the stage on Saturday
Also
at this
not a human
convention,
But
and some people
responsible.
in the audience started booing
Yeah.
him.
Not really.
As her Karamo, apparently one of the people that the party was nominating for the Supreme Court told the Detroit News she is the one who gave Karamo this all-access pass to the convention. She said, yeah, I wanted her on the convention floor so that she could rally support for me.
Thank you, Sandy.
So she was not a delegate. And so when Karamo was spotted on the convention floor, they went up, they asked her, hey, will you move? We'll give you just a general seat in one of the upper levels because the floor space is for official party delegates. She refused. I mean, no surprise, right? This is the woman who refused to leave the party or her position in power. So she said, no, I'm not going to go sit up there. So they called security guards over. There was a shoving match that ensued, apparently, between the guards and some of her supporters. And then she was ultimately removed and she was escorted out of the building. And Karamo whined and complained all the way to her car. So reporters were following behind and she was just bitching and moaning the whole time. And she said, quote, all I did was walk in to try to support a candidate and now they want me thrown out. No, it was a little more than that. You refused to go sit where you belonged. Anyway, she wasn't the only person who had to be forcibly removed. I mean, God, this is such a trashy party. Evidently, there was this other man who you see here on your screen. He was also in the upper part of this arena, and he's shouting about Hoekstra. He was calling him a fake chair. So security guards grabbed him, literally grabbed him by the arms, put his arms behind his back, and forced him out. And then they called the popo. So he was arrested. So, what a shit show. This Republican Party, like I said, trashy, classless. Why would we be surprised, right? I mean, when you have someone like Trump, the epitome of trashy and classless, leading the party, this is what you can expect. Like I always say, like flies to shit.
And criminal, I will add. Trashy, sure. Classless, I mean,
understand that's
obviously,
retired.
but criminal as well. They're following his example. You also have Carrie Lake following his criminal example, refusing to concede elections when she knows damn well she lost fair and square. It's just who these people are now. There's that movie, The Big Short, where Steve Carell's character basically says you can't make a business that lasts out of scamming people. He says you can't keep selling fake things and expect to stay in business, or something like those lines, along those lines. I might not remember the specific words, but the sentiment fits here. This doesn't last. Fascism, incidentally, tends not to last because it's built on lies. All of this, it's built on lies. There's a reason this is not the way business is normally done, because it's no way to do business. This behavior, this stealing of the computers and, the donations for the wall, and never conceding an election even when it's clear that you lost, and all of it. Even if you don't follow politics, it eventually becomes obvious what's going on. And you know how you can tell? It's the jokes. Jokes are how you can tell. Jokes only work if they reveal something that is felt. The jokes about politicians always saying the same things, those get a laugh because it feels like they do it. The jokes about corruption, those get a laugh, so on and so forth. Watch. Just watch. Starting now and going through until Trump is finally in a prison cell. Watch the jokes. Not just about how weird they are, but about how criminal they are. Because people are starting to understand it. People are starting to feel it. People are starting to roll their eyes when they see one of these stories, not because they're sick of seeing these stories, but because they already know what's in it before they hear the details. Well, PNC Bio, good to see you. One of them seemed to realize, none of them seemed to realize that Trump seems to have the juice to keep getting out of criminal problems. They all seem to go straight to jail. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Even the stuff Trump is still trying to blame, for some reason, Biden for, is nonsensical. There is literally nothing good about Trump. Just like, in my opinion, there was literally nothing good about George W. Bush, or frankly, any Republican that I've seen in my life, because they were all just different levels of sophistication on the same scam. With Trump, at least it's obvious. And case in point, he he criticizes Biden for the Afghanistan withdrawal. Will it surprise you to learn that his own generals think that the flaws in the withdrawal from Afghanistan were his fault? People who work for Trump. People who work for Trump blame Trump for the failures of that operation. Don't believe me? Check it out.
Army Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, who
This is
served
on
as the former
CNN.
president's national security advisor
A
from
fairly
2017
right-leaning
through 2018.
organization.
His new book on his time in the White House is At War with Ourselves, My Tour of Duty in the Trump White House. General McMaster, thanks for being with us. I'm in the midst of the book, and I'm really enjoying it. You write, he says you got to fire everybody who touched this policy. As you write in the book, he touched this policy. He had a lot of hands on it. You write in the book, Trump established the first sound, long-term, low-cost strategy for Afghanistan and South Asia, but then abandoned that strategy and replicated the Obama policy of negotiating a withdrawal timeline with a terrorist organization, setting the stage for the Biden administration's humiliating retreat from Kabul in August 2021. You were out of the White House at the time that this was done. You write that you, quote, watched with incredulity and revulsion as he directed an envoy to negotiate withdrawal with the Taliban. You would not have advised him to do that.
Absolutely. And I advised him to do quite the opposite of that in the run up to what was his decision in August of 2017. And I tell that story in detail in the book about how really Trump made a tough decision and made, I think, what was the best available decision, and put into place in 2017 the first sustainable, reasoned approach to Afghanistan. The war by that point had not been a 16-year war. It had been a one-year war fought 16 times over. But, you know, Anderson, he couldn't stick with the decision. He didn't stick with the decision. And I think people were in his ear and manipulated him into, with these mantras of, end the endless wars and Afghanistan's a graveyard of empires and so forth. And
so when he is critical of, the Biden administration's withdrawal, which, I guess the Biden administration could have not gone along with the deal that was made. Biden did push back Trump had set a guaranteed withdrawal date, May 1st. Biden pushed it back to August. Trump had cut troop levels down drastically, even though the Taliban was still attacking. The Taliban had allowed terrorist organizations.
Let's just be clear about who McMaster is, too. There is no ending of bloodshed that would have been satisfying to him. Not unlike Bolton, another Trump sycophant. There is no amount of decency that would appease this person, because anything decent is abhorrent to it. He is only happy if innocents are being killed. I don't know why that is. I've tried very hard to understand people like this, and I can't. I can't imagine what happens in your life so that you can only achieve an erection if you know that somewhere a mother was killed with a bomb while her baby was in her arms. I don't know how one breaks in that particular way. But that's who this is. Just so we're clear that this is not a good human being we're looking at on the screen. We've got the son of a billionaire dynasty and a murderer. But his criticism of Trump is so much starker for that reason. Because he is saying, and we're going to play the more interesting parts in a moment here. He's essentially saying Trump's blaming Biden for the Afghanistan withdrawal and the failures of that, when in fact it was his own damn fault. It was Trump's own damn fault. Another way to put it might be that Trump would not have withdrawn from Afghanistan. He would have gone back on the deal he made if he would have been reelected. And Biden had the courage to simply say, "Yeah, no, I don't need to play around with this. We should end this forever war we've been engaged in."
Again, to have a home in their government, in their country. But Trump had his hand on, does Trump bear part of the responsibility for what happened?
Oh, yes. So the whole premise of talking to the Taliban before you leave Afghanistan, why the heck were we even doing that?
He was going to invite them to Camp David.
Right. Even the Obama administration, when they made the mistake of pulling all of our troops out of Iraq in 2010, which really set conditions for the rise of ISIS and so forth by 2014, the Obama administration didn't negotiate with Al Qaeda in Iraq on the way out. And so if we were going to leave, why not just leave? What happened in these series of negotiations and concessions to the Taliban is we kind of threw the Afghans under the bus on the way out.
And they cut the Afghan government out of those negotiations, right?
Absolutely. So that was mistake one. Then forced them to release 5,000 of some of the most heinous people on earth, and then began
The Trump
to
administration
withdraw.
forced the Afghan government to release 5,000 Taliban.
Correct. And then also stop the active targeting of the Taliban, which President Trump, again, to his credit in 2017, had restored because he was convinced, like, how the heck does this make any sense? To give your enemy a timeline for your withdrawal and then say, now I'm going to negotiate a favorable settlement? I mean,
so it raises the question about the atmosphere within the White House, which you write a lot about. The portrait you paint of dysfunction in the White House from a sort of management perspective is pretty alarming. You say Trump pitted people against each other instead of building collaborative teams. You say it was an administration at war with itself. Do you have any reason to believe that if there's another Trump administration, that it would be any different? Because doesn't that tone get set by the commander in chief?
Well, you know, as a historian too, Anderson, I realized that was not unprecedented, right? So one of the things that gave me solace as I was in that position was that thinking about the first Reagan administration, how tumultuous that was. And so I knew that this was really nothing new. It happens in all administrations, but in the Trump administration, I think everything was magnified.
In the one of the things you said that's
Look, the point isn't even that the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a fiasco. Frankly, it wasn't. It was doomed from the start, and it wasn't even Trump's fault that it was doomed from the start. We put in a puppet government there. That was the ultimate flaw. But it could have been better than it was. The reason it was bad was Trump's fault. And he's looking for something he can blame Biden for. And as usual, all a Republican can do is look at the damage they've wrought and blame the other party for it. Because the worst things about this country are the faults of Republicans. The things that stand out as being particularly disappointing about the United States, that's the fault of the Republican Party. We got rid of slavery later than the rest of the world. That's, the fault of conservatives, which at the time were Democrats. But frankly, if we're being honest with ourselves, there was a name switch in the 60s. It's the same group of bastards. Trickle-down economics. The rich getting wildly rich while the standard of living for the average American has plummeted. It's the Republican Party. The 2008 financial crash. Republican Party. Oligarchs in the United States. Billionaires who have an outsized say in how U.S. elections go. Those are all Republican problems. Keeps going. Crash in East Palestine, Ohio. Chemicals, burning, dump it into the water. Trump set the policies. Rather, he undid the policies which would have prevented that. Undid the regulations which would have prevented that. You just fill in the blank. Every awful thing that America has endured is the fault of conservatives. It's also the fault of the people that try to make deals with these devils. So when something goes wrong, or rather when a Republican is trying to get elected to office and they need to point at problems in the country, they've become masters of blaming the other party for their own mistakes. Afghanistan's no different. There's some light here. It means if you're talking to somebody that votes Republican, you know you have an inherent advantage over them when it comes to talking politics. You know they don't know anything. They have no idea how any of this works. Because if they did, they wouldn't tell you with a straight face that they're voting Republican. They don't read policy. They have no sense of what is in those policies. They have no economic theory of how any of this works. If you're concerned that you don't, if you're concerned, I'm just a regular person, I don't have a big fat textbook, how am I going to debate this person who says they're voting Republican? Don't worry. You only need to know a very little bit to know way more than they do, because they're voting Republican. They have no idea how any of this works. So there's an inherent advantage for you in every difficult political conversation you're going to have forever and ever and ever after. By the way, on a related note, the time is likely around the corner for when we're going to be doing the same thing with Democrats. CNN looks like it's going to be the new Fox News, owned by an extreme right-wing fellow, pushing out lies, obscuring the truth. We're going to see studies in the next few years that show, yep, if you watch CNN, you know less than somebody that knows nothing. So on and so forth. We're going to see a party switch again. And either we'll take the name Democrat, we progressives will, or the Democrats will keep the name. But regardless, those centrists now, those people that are okay shaking hands with Nazis, they're going to become the new conservatives. Because you've seen the bust out happening in the old Conservative Party. It's done. It was dying in 2015. What we saw as its resurgence of late were desperate flailing. But it can't be saved anymore. If it had a chance, that's gone. Because they can't deny what they've just now been. They can't deny that they're now the party of traitors, well and truly. It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. Mark Twain. I believe that. I also believe this. CNN is over, says Obsessive Audio. I mean, I don't think anytime soon. But yeah, CNN. All right. I don't think I don't want to rope that in the same way, because I think the Republican Party is truly ending, like forever. As in, it will be embarrassing to say, "Oh, I'm Republican." If only for the fact that we can just openly discuss now how if somebody says they're Republican, you immediately know they know nothing about politics. CNN's going to be a little bit different. CNN is over as a respectable news organization. I don't think people are going to be I think in 10 years, something like Zateo is going to be allowed into more rooms than CNN is. And not even allowed, but given an invitation to more rooms than CNN is. Not because of any grand moral, but simply because what's the point? What's the point of talking to CNN? What's the point of talking to somebody or watching something that doesn't actually do what it says on the tin? There's legacy folks watching it right now. But for some of these news organizations that have been around for 50 years, for them to go on existing, they will need to attract people from my generation. They will need to attract people who are able to Google things or whatever the next search engine that takes over. They are going to need to attract people who actually give a damn about the quality of information that they're putting out. And they don't put out quality information, and they don't have a business model that allows them to put out quality information. So I think broadly, I agree with your sentiment, but I do think they're going to make a lot of money off people who are used to passively watching the news before that happens. Pinkerbell, which is hilarious because all the right-wingers think CNN is big, bad, lefty media. Yeah, it's insane. The anti-corporatist, I predict that MAGA will be marginalized and the rest of the hateful bigots will come home to roost in the Republican Party. Maybe. But, I mean, the Republican Party has shown itself to be connected to MAGA. So how do you, you can't wash that stink off you. The farther we get away from MAGA, the more the Republican Party is actually going to suffer. Simply because the farther we get away from MAGA, the more it's okay to acknowledge that, that was villainy. That was pure evil. That was a bunch of racist traitors. It's what they are. Traitors. They tried to overthrow democracy, literally, with a mob. Racist. Trump came out the gate saying, ban all Muslims from coming into this country. You don't have to go any farther than that. There's tons of other things he did. Kids in cages, the whole 9 yards. You don't have to go any farther than that. There's no denying it. There's also no denying that the Republican Party allowed it to happen. There's no denying that the Republican Party welcomed in the Tea Party before that. Their reputation is shot. They can't defeat the Democratic talking point of why are we listening to the MAGA party? There's no coming back from that, in my opinion. Obsessive Audio, true. All big media is owned by vested interests. Indeed. Zateo, and also whatever whatever Ryan Grimm and what's his bucket are calling their new thing. Yeah. And I want to be clear. Those are two examples from lefty media. I'm impressed, PNC Bio says, to a large extent that much like France, two parties that are usually opposed have gotten together to stop the fascist party. That is to be commended. I agree. But yeah, I want to be clear. I don't see where the comment is, but I want to be clear to what I think AC was saying. Those are just leftist organizations, but I think smaller news outlets run by just a handful of people who probably do the work, or at least appear in the reporting from time to time. I think those are just going to rise up. And instead of there being like 5 major news networks, there's going to be 500. And those are what are going to get invited places. And they'll rise and fall quicker as well, but they will be more efficient machines, and they will be more focused on breaking stories. The reason they're going to be more focused on breaking stories, and by the way, doing actual reporting as a result, because the business model supports that, is simply because this. It's cheap. It's the same product. It's video and audio. That's it. It's the same product put out by these massive news companies. But it doesn't cost us $5,000 an hour to run a tower that outputs a signal. It costs us 5 cents an hour for internet and electricity. It's inevitable. The future is indeed right here. And it's almost right now. I think we're going to jump into Sandy's stream after this. Oh, I want to scratch that eyeball, but I'm not gonna. PNC Bio. Yeah. I was thinking of the first time they got close a few years ago. What Macron is doing now is unbelievable. For those of you that don't know, I guess this is what we're doing. Hold up. France left wing Denies, I don't know, France, Macron, Al Jazeera. There we go. Macron has blocked left-wing choice for French PM. What happens next? Let's talk about this for a second. Oofa doofa. There we go. This is from Al Jazeera. Who wrote this? Edna Mohammed. France's president, centrist Emmanuel Macron, launched a new round of talks with political party leaders on Tuesday to find a way to form a new government and appoint a prime minister. The French political system was thrown into chaos on Monday night when, following a weekend of talks between party leaders, Macron refused to appoint the candidate proposed for prime minister by the left-wing New Popular Front alliance. While the New Popular Front, NFP, goddammit, France, won the most seats in the recent parliamentary elections, it did not win an overall majority. The NFP, which is made up of the parties France Unbowed, LFI, the Socialist Party, PS, the Greens, ILV, and the Communist Party, PSF, had proposed a relatively unknown civil servant, Lucie Castex, 37, for the prime ministerial role. But the alliance's lack of a majority in the National Assembly and its failure to receive backing for its candidate from the other two alliances, Macron's own centrist Assemblée alliance and the far-right National Rally, means it would be unable to function properly as an effective government. Macron said, yeah, if he doesn't support him, that's what would happen. His decision has prompted fury from the left-wing alliance, with some lawmakers calling for him to be impeached, and I hope he is. Let it be known they're not that different from us. Do let it be known. Democrats prefer far-right extremists to leftists. In the U.S., I have not seen any leftist extremists. The U.S. has me for leftists, basically. People who around the world would be seen as pretty close to center. Yeah, we've got American communists, yada, 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 in tiny little pockets, almost non-existent politically. Mostly what they have is folks like I see talking here, who would in other countries be seen as like normal lefties, standard, basically. Democrats would rather work with people that want to put Muslims in camps than us. And that is how you know that we represent the ideology which is interested in actual change. You want to improve people's lives? That means the people who have been oppressing us will have worse lives. Not bad lives, not even as bad as us poor wretches, us regular schmucks have to deal with. Not as bad as that. Just 4 yachts instead of 7. And how do you know who's really going to make that happen? Well, look at who the yacht owners hate. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Environmental Coffee House is on next. I'll see you there, gang. Oh, my name's Jake, and this is Donald James X.